to try and catch us letting people in that weren't supposed to be in, or if you didn't have a card or your ID. So I was real strict about that. Like if I knew you and you were some old lady that came in every other day, I didn't give a shit. I was like, if you out your shit, you're not coming in here. You're not coming in here. Yeah, yeah. So when I ran that, that's how I know a little bit about that stuff. Is because I was doing all that, but I would never let them in. But they were coming, and I knew who they were. The shops would talk to each other. You know what I mean? They'd say, "Hey, they're coming through. They're trying to get blah blah blah," and then that's how we would find out. So we would already know because the other shops down the road would be like, "Hey, cops just came in here.
I don't know, man. I wasn't smart.
They're gonna try and
think
come in there."
I
So.
saw any of them because it was like when
Yeah.
when I met them and before it was like, oh, now I remember. Your face.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of, that actually happened during the raid. Didn't you see a familiar face and he walked out because he was like, "Oh shit," right? You remember that? Yeah. So I remember you telling me that. Who else would have been there that I know? That was there anybody else that would have told me that story, or was it just you? Because I knew a couple people that worked there.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember who it was, but he said that guy had come in
Yeah.
undercover, and when they actually went to do the raid, he walked in and knew that you guys recognized him.
Oh.
He knew.
Now that you're saying that,
He said we knew his face, and so he turned around because he knew he was exposed, and he walked straight out. They said, and then I thought that was kind of crazy because he's like, "Oh shit, yeah, these guys know who I am." But so when all that went down, how did that happen? You just sitting there at work one day, and
just somebody, you can hear somebody kind of desperately coming in the door to say, "Hey, there's somebody coming in with guns," and then it's just like you're on your face,
yeah.
and then you're in a paddy wagon, and then you're down in jail. You're like, wait.
But I remember you guys saying that the guy was so scared when he had the gun to your face that you were afraid he was going to accidentally shoot you because he was shaking.
I was terrified. Nobody,
Yeah.
I mean, the cops.
I heard the cops were
involved
scared.
local cops.
Yeah, I heard the
and
cops were scared.
Didn't,
Yeah.
they didn't want to be shoving guns in our face.
Bunch of hippies at a weed shop.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
Yeah.
And so from there, you guys got raided. They shut you down. You didn't so at that point were you like, I'm never doing this shit again, or were you like, nah, hell no, dude?
Like, no, it wasn't. I didn't have that attitude of no, hell no, I'm never reopen. I had the attitude of okay, I know why they shut me down here because they didn't shut everybody down. They let other people reopen, or we thought that they were we didn't know what was going on, but people were reopening and they weren't busting them, and we thought it was because we were right in town in Olympia, and the rules really were you needed to be out of city limits, so that's where I moved. The next shop that I thought was totally legal, and that didn't last long at all. And then you came in, and then instead of
How long were you there at that one?
I think
You were on the water, right? You were on the the bay?
Said, dude, yeah, like I said, it was like that's when I had the boat. I had bought a boat from a guy that was letting me make payments on it. Big boat. And that's the reason I wasn't able to get a job for a long time.
Yeah.
Because that's all you see when you Google my name. It's just bullshit.
So when they came, arrested you at the new place, shut you down. So let's go back real quick though, because we left part off, and maybe you don't want to talk about this, but
I don't want to talk about any of it.
when the first one happened, did they not just drop you off at jail and not give you a ticket?
They called it a smash and grab, and they dropped us off in jail. All of us store owners looking around like, now what? We're just all standing in a cell together, and then somebody comes up an hour later and is like, okay, you guys can go.
Exactly.
Like, wait,
they don't even know why you're there, right?
What do you mean? And we go back to the stores. The stores are empty.
Did they take any cash?
No.
They just
not mine.
They just took everything that was in the.
No, they just took everything from the store. Well, and my stuff was in the store. My computers, all my stuff that I was like that I'd have at work, and whatnot. music equipment. I mean,
Now, does your silent partner get in trouble for that?
Yeah.
He did. Okay.
unfortunately, man.
Yeah. So then when you went to, okay, I just didn't want to leave that part out because that was one of the more intriguing parts of that whole story to me, to be honest. Because I'm like, that's crazy. It just came in, shut you down, dropped you off in jail, cleared you out, and said, hey, all right, now figure it out from here. You know what I mean? And so then you move on to your next shop, and literally the same thing happens?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing. And I was so brand new, just kind of finding out about it. And,
And so what was their like actual reasoning for like taking your houseboat?
because
That thing was
they
huge.
said that it was popular.
Okay, so because of the dispensary, whatever. Okay, so yeah, so that's a crazy experience. I mean, just to go through all of that, because I mean, the Casey I know in high school, the one I met in 9th grade, I definitely wouldn't have predicted that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's still the same.
Like-
as far as guns, dude, I hate guns. I
Yeah.
always hated guns.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
dude, I was not the right person to go through that. Because it stuck with me so hard, man.
Yeah, that has it. Well, I remember back then, you would even say to me sometimes, you'd be like, "Tell, I feel like these dudes are following me."
Still.
You'd be like, "I'm taking back roads." You're like, "I'm taking
Still.
crazy roads home to try," and they're still following me. I remember you telling me that, and honestly, it sounds like you might have been correct because it wasn't long after.
Yeah, it didn't.
that-
It just didn't make sense.
you know?
To me, number one, that I was kind of there in that position, and then after I was done, I was analyzing everything, read on these papers and everything. I'm like, well, and going back, like, oh, now I remember them following me because I mean, there was stuff that they were saying, like, hey, idiot, we knew you were trying to ditch us when you turn around, and I was like, oh man, I just always forget where I was going. And that was when they came in with honey oil and stuff like that, and I'd smoked honey oil for the first time, and I was just completely gone, man. Anybody
I know where
follows
I
me
was.
around, they're gonna think I'm trying to ditch them because sometimes I forget where I'm going. Still, follow me home tonight. You're in Chicago.
He said, "We'll both get lost."
Seriously.
Yeah. That's funny. So, all right. So we moved past all this crazy weed stuff. We've already, like you said, you've already owned a damn pet store. You got into the whole weed game. And now how you, before I move on, how do you feel about it all being legal now? I mean, does it bug you? Does it bug you that it's just every day is what it is? And back then they're putting you through hell over it when in reality, because it's kind of like this. People say to me sometimes, what about all these people that got locked up for petty weed stuff, Toby? I always say, hey, when they did it, it was illegal. You know what I mean? I'm not here to like sugarcoat things.
Mhm.
They told you not to do it and you did it when you weren't supposed to. So that's cool, but you weren't necessarily doing that. You were riding a thin line though.
I was riding the thin line.
You were riding the thin line, but
I was
you
under the understanding that
No.
under state law,
Exactly.
I was doing something legal.